Do you ever look at your older work and think, it's just not as good as I'm capable of? I'm Pat Scrivener from Scrivener Art and Design, and today I'm going to take you on a journey about how I am going to update this painting. Grab a cup of tea and let's get started. I'm letting go of some of the marks from the underpainting that we're showing through, just simplifying the dress a little. And I apologize for the glare I have on the canvas there. I guess this surface is quite glossy. I'm also adding some cadmium orange as well, just to modify the color a little bit in places. I'm not sure what all I am going to do, but some of the thoughts I've had are to change the bag and work on her face a little bit more. Also putting in a different bottom to anchor the painting a bit more. So the colors of her dress are cadmium red and cadmium orange predominantly. And I'm just trying to get it richer and let go of some of the marks that were coming through from my underpainting. I'm using a ruler and a piece of chalkboard chalk just to draw a line, and I'm going to change her purse to be in front of her dress, not behind. So I mixed up a grayed down blue color that I'm going to put across the bottom. So this is very opaque. Just to change it and give it a bit of a variation, maybe make it look like a curb. This painting started out as a messy background and just making lots of marks and kind of pixelated background with my flat brush. And it started to take on the feeling of city lights. And then I started to see an image coming forward. So this is how I usually work, and the gal is totally intuitive. So I'm going to change the purse color here to the cobalt teal. Just make it stand out a little bit more. As much as I did like the circles on it, I felt the visual language wasn't really correct with the background. Sometimes when you're covering over, even with an opaque paint, you do need to use more than one layer. Putting a little bit of shading in her legs here, make them a little more dimensional, as well as the arms. They were looking pretty flat before. Also going to put some shading in her face. Overall, I do like the shape of her dress and her body. It's just some tweaks that I'm doing to hopefully improve her and make her richer and just a little more vibrant and a better composition overall. I like to put a little bit into the face, but trying not to add too many details. Changing the shape slightly. Letting go of the inside of the bag, making it dark. There was a bit of a line there before that I'm covering over. The background color there is ultramarine blue, and I'm using a fluid paint. Ultramarine is somewhat transparent, so it is darkening as you add layers, but it is leaving some of my marks from underneath as well. Adding a little bit more definition to her arm here. Using your fingers to blend is often the easiest thing to do, I find. I've decided to put something on this side of the canvas, and I decided maybe a pole, like a street lamp or something, just to balance out the composition more. I hope I'm going to like it because I'm covering up the background, and if I have to paint it back, it's going to be a little more challenging to make it look like it was there all along. So I just think that having a post in the painting gives it a little bit of balance, but also pushes your eye back in and maybe tells a bit more of the story of the gal out standing at the curb waiting to cross, and that there's a light standard by her. So that was my thought on adding this. It also adds a little more dimension to the painting. I am putting some shading on it as well, so it doesn't appear quite as flat. I think it's going to stay. I just spurted some alcohol on that because I want to give it a little bit more of a textured, aged feel. And while that's working, I'm coming back in here with some teal and making my pixelated marks with my 1-inch flat brush. This is a Crayola children's brush that I'm using. I find that for the price point, they're amazing, and they don't lose their hairs, and they're very inexpensive. They come in a package, and there's a few different sizes. So I'm hard on my brushes, and I tend to scrub with them a lot and sometimes forget to clean them, so using an inexpensive brush is certainly advantageous for me. So just putting a little bit more color on her legs and face. I am using a fairly limited palette here, other than adding the teal in as a bonus color. I've pretty much stuck with the red, yellow, and blue, and her limbs have been mixed with the cadmium red and the dairy-lyed yellow to make a little bit more peachy tone. I like working with a limited palette and mixing my colors. I find it keeps my painting more harmonious, but I did, like I said, I used a couple bonus colors in here, one being some cadmium orange and also that beautiful teal color. Because I use so much of those colors, I just don't really want to mess around with trying to mix them, so I tend to call them my bonus colors. So I'm going back and forth and making changes and adjustments, building up layers. And this is what it takes. It's hard to get it right the first time always, so I find that just keep adding to it makes for a rich painting with some history underneath. So they're not big changes I'm making, but hopefully it's going to improve the painting overall. I'm using a credit card or a key card scraper here where I put the alcohol on, and I'm just taking some of the paint off and leaving a more kind of rugged look. And now I'm just kind of scrubbing it back with a sanding block. Just trying to remove a bit more and give it a little more of a rustic feel. I'm going to put a bit of a highlight on the one side so it pops up a bit. I very seldom ever cover a painting with titanium white paint or gesso. I prefer to use what I have on my painting, even if I drastically change something. I just like to keep the painting alive and leave parts of it in. So in this case, it's not a major overhaul, but sometimes I do lose quite a bit of my previous painting and leave some of it to show, and I find that so interesting. So I'm finding that this bottom part needs to have a darker ground. I've just mixed up shade using all my colors to get a gray, blue-gray tone. This helps the pole to stand out a bit more as well. Putting a few highlights in on the post as well. So I pretty much lost what I previously did, making it look old and rustic, but that's okay. That's part of the process, and we've got to try things to know what works. So again, I'm coming back into the purse and putting orange back in, and then I took it out again. So sometimes it's just the process, and I'm putting a little bit of orange edging along the outside of the post and on my sleeve as well. So I find adding little bits of edging really can hinge a painting together. So you have to decide which color is going to work the best overall. So I'm getting down to where I'm feeling like I've made enough changes on her. I may work on the face some more, but I think that I do like the painting better now that I've made a few changes, and I think the composition is stronger. So I'd love to hear your comments on what you think of the remodel. If it's an improvement and you like it better. Here's a bit of a close-up.